Good morning, my dear friend. Before we go any further, I want to thank you for being here with me today. Whether you're sitting in your favorite armchair, listening while you make tea, or taking a slow morning walk, I'm grateful you pressed play. If you haven't already, take a second to like this video and subscribe to our channel, Elderly Reflections. Your support helps us continue bringing you real stories, practical advice, and life lessons from the elderly that truly matter. And hey, before we dive in, where are you watching from today? Leave a comment down below. I'd love to know where in this big, beautiful world you're tuning in. Now, let me ask you something straight from the heart. Have you ever opened your medicine cabinet in the morning, stared at the line of bottles, and thought, do I really need all of these? You're not alone. In fact, in the U.S. and across much of Europe, the average person over 75 takes between 5 to 8 prescription medications a day. And that's not counting vitamins, over-the-counter painkillers, sleep aids, or herbal supplements. Some seniors have a morning routine that looks more like a pharmacy technician's job. But here's the truth no one talks about. After 80, the very medications meant to help you can actually start hurting you. This is what Dr. Eleanor Grant, a geriatrician from Boston with over 30 years of experience, has spent her career trying to warn people about. She told me, the body of an 80-year-old doesn't process medication the way it did at 50. The kidneys slow down. The liver works harder. Side effects become more serious, and drug interactions more dangerous. She calls it the silent threat hiding in plain sight. And what's worse, many seniors don't even realize their symptoms. Fatigue, confusion, dizziness might not be age, but the pills they've been told to take. Let me share a story that still breaks my heart. Walter, an 82-year-old retired teacher from Ohio, used to be sharp as a tack. Loved poetry, chess, and gardening. But about a year ago, he started becoming forgetful. Lost track of his sentences. Slept more. Fell twice in 2 months. His family feared dementia. But a visiting nurse took a closer look at his medications. Walter was on 9 different prescriptions from 3 different doctors, none of whom had spoken to each other. 1 pill for blood pressure, another for cholesterol, 2 for sleep, 1 for bladder issues, an antidepressant, a painkiller, and more. The interactions were causing what doctors now call drug-induced cognitive decline. 3 medications were reduced or removed. Within weeks, Walter's energy returned. His memory sharpened. He started quoting Shakespeare again over lunch. It wasn't dementia. It was polypharmacy, the term used when seniors are prescribed too many medications at once, often unnecessarily. And here's the worst part. This is not rare. It's happening in homes, clinics, and senior care facilities every single day. That's why today's video is one of the most important we've ever made. Because we're going to talk openly and honestly about the medications people over 80 should question, and in many cases, stop taking, always under the guidance of a doctor, of course. Let's begin with one of the most common, and most overused, categories, sleep medications. If you've ever struggled with sleep after 70, chances are your doctor, or a friend, suggested something. Maybe Ambien. Maybe a benzodiazepine like Ativan or Valium. Or maybe you tried over-the-counter options like diphenhydramine, commonly found in Benadryl or Tylenol PM. They work, yes. But the cost is high. Dr. Grant explains that these medications can lead to next morning grogginess, impaired coordination, and worst of all, falls. One study from Johns Hopkins found that seniors using prescription sleep aids are more than twice as likely to suffer a hip fracture. And let's not forget the effect on the brain. These medications sedate, but they don't promote healthy, restorative sleep. Over time, they can interfere with memory, increase confusion, and even raise the risk of dementia. Take Margaret, a lovely woman from Leeds in the UK. At 85, she was still baking pies and tending to her garden. But after a few months of taking a sleep aid nightly, her daughter noticed a change. Margaret repeated herself often. Became anxious. lost interest in her morning paper. It wasn't until her GP suggested tapering off the sleep meds that her spark slowly returned. Sleep matters. Deep sleep matters even more. But sedation is not the same as rest. And for most seniors, sleep can improve with safer methods, like evening walks, warm herbal teas, lower room temperatures, or guided relaxation routines. The next group we need to talk about? Over-the-counter painkillers. Ibuprofen, naproxen, even aspirin. These may seem harmless. After all, they're sold without prescriptions. But did you know that long-term use of NSAIDs, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, can increase your risk of stomach bleeding, kidney damage, and high blood pressure? The aging digestive tract is more fragile than you think. George, an 80-year-old Vietnam vet, took ibuprofen daily for arthritis. He said it was the only thing that helped his knees. But one morning, he collapsed at his kitchen table. A bleeding ulcer, caused by months of NSAID use, nearly took his life. And what's worse? He had no pain leading up to it. Because NSAIDs don't just mask joint pain, they also hide the body's warning signs. Doctors now recommend minimizing NSAID use in seniors, replacing them when possible with topical gels, physical therapy, stretching, or even acupuncture, which many European senior centers now integrate into arthritis care. And then there's anticholinergic medications. That might sound technical, but you probably know them. They include certain allergy pills, bladder control meds, even some antidepressants. The trouble is, these drugs affect a neurotransmitter called acetylcholine, which plays a major role in memory and learning. In younger people, the impact is minimal. But in seniors, especially those over 80, these medications can contribute to confusion, drowsiness, and memory decline. A major study published in JAMA Internal Medicine followed over 3,000 adults aged 65 plus, and found that those who used anticholinergic drugs regularly had a 54% higher risk of developing dementia. Can you imagine? You're taking a pill to stop a leaky bladder, and it's quietly unraveling your memory. It's a cruel trade-off. Seniors need better. And that starts with awareness. So what should you do? Start by gathering every pill bottle, supplement, and over-the-counter item you use. Bring them to your next appointment. Ask your doctor, or better yet, a geriatric pharmacist, for a full medication review. Ask questions like, do I still need this? Is this safe for someone my age? Could this be causing my fatigue or dizziness? Are there non-drug alternatives? You'd be surprised how many medications were started years ago and never reassessed. And if your doctor resists, get a second opinion. It's your body, your brain, your future. When we talk about reducing medications after 80, some people get nervous. But what if I stop something important? They ask. And it's a fair question. Because yes, some medications are essential. But others? They've just been hanging around, like guests who overstayed their welcome. We left off discussing medications that quietly interfere with your memory, balance, and energy. Now, let's continue with another group that deserves attention. Proton pump inhibitors, or PPIs. You might recognize them by their names: omeprazole, Prilosec, lansoprazole, Prevacid, esomeprazole, Nexium. They're used to treat acid reflux, heartburn, GERD. And they work. But here's what most seniors don't know. They were never meant to be used long-term. These medications reduce the stomach's acid production. That helps with heartburn, but the side effects over time can be serious, especially for seniors. We're talking about decreased calcium absorption, higher fracture risk, magnesium deficiency, and even vitamin B12 deficiency, which can lead to confusion, fatigue, and depression. I remember Tom, a retired engineer from Michigan. He'd been taking omeprazole for nearly 12 years. It keeps my heartburn away, he told me. But lately, he was falling more often. His legs felt weak. Blood tests showed he was severely low on magnesium and B12, both essential for nerve and muscle function. Once his doctor helped him wean off the PPI and adjust his diet, his strength returned in just a few months. Dr. Grant explained it like this. The stomach isn't just a pouch for food. It's a chemical factory. And when we shut it down for too long, we're starving the body of nutrients it desperately needs, especially after 80. Instead of reaching for PPIs daily, many seniors can find relief through safer options, elevating the head of the bed, eating smaller meals, avoiding spicy or acidic foods, and steering clear of late-night snacks. And for those who truly need acid control, doctors often recommend step-down plans or shorter cycles, instead of lifelong use. Next, we need to talk about statins. These are cholesterol-lowering drugs: atorvastatin, simvastatin, rosuvastatin. For decades, they've been prescribed to millions to prevent heart attacks and strokes. And in middle age, they can be life-saving. But here's the catch: for seniors over 80 who've never had a heart attack or stroke, the benefit of statins becomes less clear, while the side effects become more pronounced. Dr. Grant said, after 80, we need to stop chasing lab numbers and start looking at the person. Statins can cause muscle pain, weakness, memory problems, and even raise the risk of diabetes in older adults. Take Maria, 84, from Lisbon. She'd been on statins for years but started complaining of leg cramps, fatigue, and fuzzy thinking. Her doctor reevaluated her risk profile, no history of heart disease, excellent blood pressure, healthy lifestyle, and decided to stop the statin. Within weeks, her energy returned, and the leg cramps faded. That's not to say all statins are bad. For seniors with a history of heart problems, they can still be critical. But for others, it may be time to ask, why am I still taking this? Then there's another category most people don't think about. Antidepressants, especially SSRIs like sertraline, Zoloft, fluoxetine, Prozac, or older tricyclics like amitriptyline. Depression is real, and no one is suggesting we ignore mental health in seniors. In fact, emotional well-being is one of the key pillars of elderly wisdom and senior health. But some antidepressants, especially in long-term use, can cause sedation, confusion, weight gain, falls, and worsen other conditions like low sodium or heart rhythm problems. Worse, some seniors were prescribed these meds during a difficult chapter, after a spouse's passing, during isolation, or after surgery, and just never came off them. That was the case with Henry, a 79-year-old widower from Dublin. After losing his wife, he was prescribed an antidepressant to help him cope. It did help, for a while. But 2 years later, Henry was still on it, feeling sluggish, with no motivation. A new doctor carefully helped him taper the dose, combined it with grief counseling, and Henry said, "It's like a fog lifted. I can finally feel again." Antidepressants have a place. But they should be reviewed regularly, especially after 80, because the emotional challenges of aging require more than just pills. They require community, connection, purpose, the very things we talk about on this channel, elderly reflections. Let's not forget vitamin and herbal supplements, either. Just because it's natural doesn't mean it's safe. Too many seniors are taking ginkgo biloba for memory, ginseng for energy, garlic pills for blood pressure, St. John's wort for mood, and multiple vitamins, often in megadoses. But these can interact dangerously with prescription meds, thin the blood, strain the kidneys, or elevate blood pressure. And worse, many are unregulated, with inconsistent ingredients in dosing. Dr. Grant once treated a senior woman who was bruising easily. Her blood wouldn't clot properly. Turned out, she was taking a garlic supplement her son had given her, combined with a daily baby aspirin. Together, they had turned her blood to near water. The lesson? Even vitamins need doctor approval. After 80, every single thing you swallow matters. So where does this leave us? It leaves us in a place of power. Because while it might feel scary to question your medications, it's also empowering. It means you're not just taking pills because someone said so 20 years ago. You're being intentional, curious, bold. You're saying, I want to feel alive, not sedated. I want clarity, not confusion. I want strength, not side effects. And this doesn't mean you stop your medications tomorrow. It means you start the conversation. With your doctor. With your pharmacist. With your family. You ask, what's this pill for? Is it still necessary? Is the dose still right for me? Are there safer options? And most importantly, you trust your own body. If something feels off, if you're more tired, more forgetful, more unsteady, don't blame age. Look in the medicine cabinet. Because sometimes, the thing holding you back is something you've been taking every morning with your coffee. You are not a list of pills. You are a person. A storyteller. A survivor. A source of life lessons from the elderly that younger generations need. And you deserve to feel your best. If this resonates with you, please give this video a thumbs up. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button on Elderly Reflections. We're building a space of truth, strength, and inspiration for seniors everywhere. A place to remind you that you're not alone, and you're not stuck. And don't forget to tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? I want to hear your voice. Because your story matters. There's a small pill sitting on your kitchen table. Maybe it's yellow. Maybe white. You've taken it for years. You don't question it, because it was prescribed by someone you trusted. Maybe you even forget what it's for. But that pill could be silently affecting your balance, your memory, your heart. That's how subtle and serious this next category can be. Let's talk about blood pressure medications, especially in seniors over 80. Now don't get me wrong, controlling blood pressure is incredibly important. High blood pressure can lead to strokes, heart attacks, kidney damage. But as we age, the balance becomes more delicate. In fact, research from the Journal of the American Medical Association has shown that lower isn't always better after a certain age. Dr. Eleanor Grant explained it to me like this. After 80, the body's ability to regulate blood pressure naturally shifts. If we push it too low with medication, we can cause dizziness, confusion, falls, and even decrease blood flow to vital organs like the brain. And that's what happened to Robert. Robert is 87, from outside Toronto. He's proud of his health, eats well, walks daily, still does crossword puzzles every morning with his coffee. But last year, his daughter found him on the bathroom floor. He hadn't passed out, but he'd gotten dizzy while getting up and lost his balance. Turns out, his blood pressure was too low, hovering around 105/65. And he was still on the same dose of lisinopril that he'd been prescribed at 70. His doctor adjusted the dose and began deprescribing, slowly reducing unnecessary medications. Today, Robert's balance is back. So is his confidence. It's a story we see too often, seniors whose doctors are still treating them like they're 60, when they're 85. We need a shift in thinking. We need medications to match your current reality, not your blood test from a decade ago. And that brings us to a group of medications many seniors never even question. Diabetes drugs. If you're living with type 2 diabetes, chances are you've been told to keep your blood sugar in range. That sounds smart, right? But the truth is more nuanced. Aggressively lowering blood sugar, especially with certain drugs, can lead to hypoglycemia, low blood sugar, which is incredibly dangerous for seniors. Symptoms include shakiness, confusion, sweating, fainting, and in severe cases, coma. Metformin, sulfonylureas, insulin, these are powerful tools, but they need regular reassessment. After 80, most geriatric guidelines recommend a more relaxed target for blood sugar. Why? Because stability and safety are more important than perfection. Just ask June, an 83-year-old widow from Edinburgh. She followed her diabetes plan strictly, took her meds, skipped dessert, monitored her sugar. But one night, she didn't eat enough dinner, took her full dose of medication, and passed out on the sofa. She was found hours later by a neighbor. After that, her care team reevaluated everything. They reduced her medication, adjusted her meals, and added an alert system. She hasn't had an episode since. It's a reminder. Sometimes being too controlled can be just as risky as not being controlled at all. Another silent risk for seniors over 80? Diuretics, often called water pills. Used for high blood pressure or fluid retention, these medications, like furosemide or hydrochlorothiazide, can cause dehydration, low sodium or potassium levels, muscle cramps, and falls. And seniors are more sensitive to these imbalances. Imagine losing your balance simply because your potassium dropped too low. It happens. All the time. And it's not just about physical side effects. We also need to talk about how medications affect identity. Many seniors I've spoken with over the years feel defined by their pill boxes. I take 11 pills a day. One man told me, I feel like a walking hospital. That sense of being a patient instead of a person can quietly erode your confidence, your motivation, your joy. And isn't that just as dangerous? That's why deprescribing isn't just a medical decision. It's an emotional and psychological liberation. It's about asking, what do I truly need? What's just habit? What's helping me live, and what's just making me quiet? Dr. Grant once told me, the goal isn't to take people off every medication. It's to remove the ones that are no longer serving them, and create space for real health. And let's not forget the non-medical tools for health. Movement, connection, purpose. A 2020 European study followed 600 seniors over the age of 80. Those who engaged in gentle daily activity, like walking, light stretching, gardening, were 50% less likely to require new medications within a year. Why? Because movement stimulates the heart, supports blood sugar, sharpens the brain, and lifts the mood. It's medicine, without a prescription. Same goes for connection. Loneliness is a health risk. Seniors with regular social interaction, even brief chats with neighbors or video calls with grandchildren, have better memory, lower blood pressure, and a reduced need for anxiety or sleep meds. We've said it before, and we'll say it again, elderly wisdom lives in living. In staying curious. In choosing life, not just longevity. So here's what I want you to do. Take out your medications tonight. All of them. Even the ones you've taken for years. Read the labels. Ask yourself honestly, do I know what this is for? Is it helping me? Do I feel better with it? Then, take that list to your next appointment. Don't be afraid to ask questions. You are not just a recipient of care, you're the captain of your health. And if your provider isn't willing to have that conversation, find one who will. Because the truth is, many doctors today are catching up. They're learning the value of less is more. They're trained now in deprescribing, especially for the 80-plus community. You just need to ask. Because the pills you remove might give you back something even more powerful, a sharper memory, a steadier step, a clearer morning, a deeper breath, a renewed sense of you. You deserve that. You deserve to feel like yourself, not sedated, not slowed, not foggy. And it's possible. If this message has inspired you, or made you think differently about your health, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel, Elderly Reflections. Here, we don't just talk about senior health, we live it. With stories, motivation, quotes, and the shared wisdom of people like you, from around the world. And before you go, drop a comment below. Where are you watching from today? Whether it's a city in Canada, a village in Italy, or a porch in Kentucky, we want to hear from you. You're part of something here. A community that believes aging is not about fading. It's about refining our choices, our habits, our purpose. Let's continue learning together. Let's keep walking forward, with clarity, with strength, and with fewer pills in our pockets, and more light in our eyes. Here's to you. Here's to living your best life, at any age.